Well, I want to thank you so much, Representative Horsford from Nevada, and Representative Hakeem Jeffries as well, who's here with us, for focusing on this effort and to conduct this evening this special order on lifting Americans out of poverty. You know, it was very, very difficult to listen to Representative Barbara Lee provide those data and those statistics of the numbers of Americans who are living in poverty, and reflecting on my own personal experience, reflecting on what I see every single day among my constituents, the stark poverty, especially of children. It is very, very difficult to talk about this because this is just not abstract. This is very real. For the purposes of this discussion, though, with your permission, Representative Horsford, I would like to just modify your motto or your theme for one moment. Instead of talking about lifting Americans out of poverty, I'd like to talk about lifting America out of poverty. You see, America is heading down the road to not just have 46 million Americans living in poverty, not just having half of Americans during the recession relying on food stamps and having that as their only means of support, not just having African Americans or Hispanics or those living in stark rural being the victims of poverty, but having poverty pervade our entire community, because we, by not investing in educational opportunity of young people, are eating our seed corn. Wise farmers have taught us not to eat our seed corn. And they say that when we do that, you know, when you plant something, you eat a certain portion of it and you preserve some of it so that you can plant and have a harvest for the future. And those people who eat their seed corn are committing an act of desperation. And that is what we're doing by cutting off educational opportunity to programs. I'm specifically talking about TRIO. TRIO is a set of federally funded college and university-based educational opportunity outreach programs that modify and support students from low-income backgrounds, from first-generation students. It's not a race-based program, but it includes military veterans, students with disabilities. Currently, they serve about 790,000 students from middle schools through postgraduate studies. These programs are very, very important because we have found that there aren't enough trust fund kids, Representative Horford, there just aren't enough trust fund kids to really put this country on a sustainable course of graduating enough high-skilled workers and innovators for our country to have to enjoy the kind of economic in a global economy. There aren't enough. If we graduated every high school senior this June, if every single high school senior went to college, it still would not be enough in order for us to reach those goals of maintaining global hegemony. And yet, we have allowed, since 2005, the TRIO programs to lose $66 million in funding, which translates into 88,000 fewer low-income and potential first-generation students, including adult learners, military veterans, and students with disabilities to study. And of course, under sequestration, which went into effect March 1st, TRIO has received another $42 million cut, which means that at the beginning of the 2013-14 program year, individual grant awards will be reduced by 5%, and that translates into 40,000 fewer students to be served by TRIO. Now, as I indicated in the beginning of my discussion here, this program is a set of programs that seek to identify brilliant students, but for their income or but for their having not been born into a family where college was a tradition, that can contribute to the growth of our economy and our society. Talent Search is a program, it's a very low-cost early intervention program which identifies students with college potential in grades 6 through 12. And they really work toward giving students information about going to college. 79% of Talent Search participants were admitted to post-secondary institutions. Upward Bound is intensive intervention program that prepares students for higher education. And of course, 77% of these students who participate in Upward Bound enroll in college. The Upward Bound Math Science program, which we know we need more of them, is a model similar to Upward Bound. And 86.5% of these students go on to college. We have Upward Bound for veterans, student support services, and again, the numbers are very, very high for students who matriculate and complete in these programs. The Educational Opportunity Centers is a program where we have reached back for displaced workers, people who have not been in college, and bring them back into a fold. And we have seen a 57% increase in the number of participants who have been college dropouts that have re-enrolled or displaced workers. And we also have the Ronald E. McNair Baccalaureate Achievement Program, named after the famous astronaut who lost his life, which prepares low-income minority students for doctoral programs. I will yield to you for questions, Mr. Horsford, but just let me finish this segment by reiterating this point. If we fail to invest in young people, starting out with starving them, I'm still reeling from the comments of my colleague, Barbara Lee, because the food stamp bill that is before us would have nearly 250,000 students lose their free lunch program. And the majority of folks who are served by the food stamp program are not these welfare queens or slickers. They're elderly, children, and disabled people. So if we as a country have decided that we don't need to feed babies, we're eating our seed corn. And that is an act of desperation that will take us down a perilous road.
Thank you, Congresswoman Moore, and I couldn't agree with you more when you talk about, first and foremost, your last point, which is if we fail to invest in our children, in our elderly, and in the disabled, then we have done a disservice to them and to our in society as a whole.
That's exactly right. Because we can't lift America out of poverty without lifting Americans out of poverty. We are a family.
And so a lot of times when these programs get talked about, the various acronyms, billions of dollars here and billions of dollars there, waste, fraud, and abuse, I know gets brought up oftentimes as kind of the red herring in the room in a lot of our committee hearings. But really the reality is there's a face behind each one of these programs. There's real people depending on, as you indicate, the 250,000 children who would lose free and reduced lunches. How is a child supposed to learn if they can't, if they're hungry? How are they supposed to focus if they haven't been able to see a doctor or see a dentist? So these are real issues that are facing this Congress, and I know a lot of times, again, those on the other side somehow want to make this out more than what it is on the people and how it affects people.
Well, I can tell you, we can have a society by design or by default. We could just let it all go as it will. I was very moved earlier by the tribute that our colleagues on a bipartisan basis made to Senator Lautenberg upon his passing. And once again, here's an example of an American who ultimately became very wealthy, but it was because America embraced him with their values. He went to school on the GI Bill. He was able to go to school. He did not have any wealth. And because he was an American and an American soldier, he was able to benefit from our community of interest to build not only a great senator, but great economic enterprises and a lot of jobs that he created. And that's the way America is supposed to work. And we need to realize that educational opportunity is one of our basic strategies for staying on top in a global economy.
And opportunity, I think, is the key word there, Mr. Speaker. This isn't about a handout. This isn't about providing social services. It's about opportunity. And education is one of those most fundamental opportunities, and you, again, as an alum of TRIO programs and an advocate for funding of TRIO, Gear Up, these programs which provide tremendous opportunity to particularly first-generation college students, those who, may not have even had the knowledge of how to go about applying to enroll, let alone financial aid and scholarships. But yet it's that opportunity, that door to opportunity, that then leads to careers and their ability to contribute, staying for themselves and their family. That's what we're talking about, Mr. Speaker, is providing that opportunity. And right now we're having this big debate of whether that opportunity should come with a huge burden of debt.
Exactly.
Because if they finish school, when they finish school, should they be so far in debt they can't afford to buy a home, to buy a car, to start saving for their future? Or should they be, focused on paying $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month in debt for college loans?
And that is an extremely important point, because these young people who are going to college are doing us a favor to become educated. The jobs, making the widgets are dying out from not only technology but from outsourcing. We're going to only win this game by having the highest skilled worker, whether it be in farming or manufacturing or research and development. And to see this Congress gutting research and development, anything that looks academic or associated with intelligence or studying at all, just across the board, decimating it. Again, it's eating our seed corn, and hopefully we can reverse this curse before they get too far down the line. Thank you so much for letting me participate in this special order.
Of course, and with your voice and your continued participation, I'm sure we will do just that, which is to continue to advocate for these as priorities. And I do want to go, as I